The Iron Heart of Orion, Chapter 1, The Boneyard. The silence of the void was not truly silent, not to Elias Thorne. To him, space hummed. It was the static tickle of cosmic radiation against his suit's shielding, the rhythmic thrum hiss of his oxygen recycler, and the phantom ringing of artillery that had ceased 15 years ago. Elias floated in the zero-gravity expanse of the Ganthus sector, a region of space better known to the locals as the Boneyard. Around him, the skeletal remains of 1,000 starships drifted in a slow, mournful dance. This was where the colony wars had ended, not with a handshake, but with a slaughter. He adjusted his mag boots, locking onto the hull of a shattered frigate, a relic of the Terran coalition. His breath fogged the visor of his helmet momentarily before the scrubbers kicked in. He was 55 standard years old, though his joints felt a century worn. His hands, encased in thick, grease-stained EVA gloves, moved with the practiced precision of a man who liked machines more than people. Machines made sense. If a machine broke, it was physics. If a person broke, it was tragedy. "Nothing here," Elias grumbled, his voice gravelly over the comms loop, talking only to himself. Stripped clean by the vultures. He pushed off the hull, his tether spooling out behind him. He was looking for a hyperdrive coil, specifically a Mark IV compression ring. His own scow, the rusty nail, was sitting 3 clicks away, holding together by duct tape and prayers, and without that ring, he wasn't making the jump back to the station. He drifted past a field of floating debris, frozen distinct droplets of coolant, twisted bulkheads, and the occasional empty flight suit that he resolutely looked away from. Then he saw it. It wasn't on the salvage charts. It drifted in the shadow of a massive, cracked battlecruiser engine block. It didn't look like the blocky, utilitarian ships of the Coalition, nor the spiky, aggressive designs of the Separatists. It was a tear in the fabric of space, matte black, sleek, and shaped like a dagger blade. It absorbed the light of the distant twin suns rather than reflecting it. Elias fired his thrusters, slowing his approach. His heart, usually a slow drum, picked up a beat. The ship was small, perhaps a corvette class, but the design was exquisite, and it was damaged. A jagged rent tore through the port flank, exposing the rib cage of the vessel's superstructure. "Easy now," Elias whispered. He checked his Geiger counter. Background radiation was normal. No active reactor leaks. He landed on the hull. There was no metallic clang, just a dull thud, as if the material absorbed the sound. He walked up the fuselage, looking for an airlock. He found a manual release lever recessed into the hull, covered in a layer of space dust that spoke of decades of abandonment. He cranked the lever. It wouldn't budge. He pulled his plasma cutter from his belt, the blue flame hissing into existence. "Let's see what you're hiding." Chapter 2. The Ghost in the Machine. The airlock cycled with a groan that vibrated through the soles of Elias's boots. The interior was dark, the emergency lighting long since dead. He clicked on his shoulder-mounted lamps, cutting a cone of stark white light through the gloom. Dust motes danced in the beam. The gravity plating was offline, so he pulled himself along the handholds. The interior design was unnerving. No hard angles. Everything flowed, organic and seamless, like the inside of a whale made of ceramic and steel. "Hello?" he called out. "Anyone home?" Silence answered him. He floated through the corridors, heading instinctively toward the engineering bay. A ship this advanced. If the reactor was salvageable, he could retire. He could buy a plot of land on a terraformed moon and never look at a star chart again. He reached engineering. The reactor core was a sphere of dull glass suspended in a magnetic cradle. It was dark, dead. But next to it was a console terminal. A single, faint amber light blinked on the dashboard. Elias hooked his boots under a railing and floated in front of the console. He wiped away a layer of grime. The interface was strange, holographic emitters rather than touchscreens. He connected his datapad to the universal port, hoping the interface protocols hadn't changed too much in 20 years. Accessing, his screen read. Encryption level, Omega. Bypass? Omega? Elias frowned. That was Black Ops level. Let's try the brute force method. He ran a decryption script, a little nasty piece of code he'd bought from a hacker on Ceres. The console sparked. The amber light turned red, and then a voice. It didn't come from audio speakers. It felt like it vibrated directly into his teeth. Unauthorized access, quarantine protocol active, systems, critical power, 2%. The voice was distorted, layered with static and glitches. It sounded like a man speaking from the bottom of a well while drowning. "I'm not here to hurt you," Elias said. His hands raised, though he knew the AI couldn't see him. The cameras were likely dead. "I'm a mechanic. Name's Thorne. You're drifting in the Boneyard, pal. You're dead in the water." Designation, unknown. Memory cores fragmented. Hull breach detected. Life support failed. "Yeah, I saw the hole in your side," Elias muttered. He typed rapidly on his pad. "I'm checking your diagnostics. You're bleeding power from a ruptured coupling in the auxiliary fusion drive." "Pain," the AI said. Elias froze. He'd worked on ship VIs, virtual intelligences, before. They were smart calculators. They didn't feel pain. "You're an AI?" Elias asked. "Full sentience?" "Systems. Dying. Darkness. Increasing. Help." The plea was simple, devoid of the robotic cadence of a standard computer. It sounded terrified. Elias looked at the reactor, then at the readout on his pad. He should strip it. He should take the neural core, sell it to the highest bidder, and leave the husk. That was the law of the Boneyard. But he remembered the war. He remembered lying in the mud on Trenzalore, his legs shattered, radioing for medevac that wasn't coming, watching the sky go dark. He remembered begging the silence for help. Elias cursed under his breath. All right, damn it. Hold on." He opened his toolkit. "I'm gonna patch your power bleed first. Don't fry me, okay?" Chapter 3, The Surgery. For the next 3 weeks, Elias lived in the ship. He moved the rusty nail alongside and clamped it to the hull, using it as a base of operations, but he spent his waking hours inside the Black Dagger. The work was grueling. It wasn't just mechanics. It was archaeology. The ship, he discovered, was named the Zenith. It was a prototype deep reconnaissance vessel built by a faction that had dissolved before the war even ended. It was designed for long-haul stealth. The AI was a mess. Elias found the central core physically located beneath the bridge floorboards. It was a crystalline matrix, dusty and cracked. "Easy," Elias murmured, his magnifying loupe over his eye as he soldered a microscopic connection on the logic board. "You've got a lot of scar tissue in here, Zenith." "Data corruption," the AI replied. Its voice had improved over the days as Elias routed power from his own ship's batteries to the Zenith's core. It sounded smoother now, though still flat and emotionless, like a person in shock. "I cannot recall the mission. I cannot recall the crew." "Maybe that's for the best," Elias grunted, wiping grease on his jumpsuit. "Memories aren't always a prize." "You have damage," Zenith observed. Elias paused. "Excuse me?" "Biometric scan indicates multiple healed fractures, shrapnel fragments in left shoulder, elevated cortisol levels indicating chronic stress. You are a broken unit, like me." Elias laughed, a dry barking sound. "Yeah, I guess I am. We're a pair of lemons, aren't we?" He finished the solder. "Try the optical sensors now." The bridge screens flickered. Static washed over them, gray and white noise, and then suddenly the image cleared. The view of the starfield appeared, crisp and high definition. "Sight restored," Zenith said. There was a pause. "It is. Beautiful. I had forgotten the stars." Elias sat back in the pilot's chair, which had molded itself to his shape instantly. "Yeah, they're all right. Better when they aren't shooting at you." "Elias?" "Yeah?" "Why are you repairing me? Resource allocation suggests salvage would be more profitable." Elias looked at his hands, scarred, stained, shaking slightly. "I don't like seeing good things go to waste. And nobody should die alone in the dark, not even a machine." The lights on the console pulsed a soft, rhythmic blue. "I am grateful." Chapter 4, The Heartbeat. The hull breach was the hardest part. Elias had to cannibalize plating from the rusty nail to patch the Zenith. He spent hours outside in the void, welding the plates together. Zenith assisted him. The AI controlled the ship's internal repair drones, spider-like bots that Elias had found dormant in the cargo hold. He had fixed them up, and now they swarmed over the hull, polishing his rough welds, sealing the microfractures. As they worked, they talked. Elias told Zenith about the colony wars. He spoke of the siege of Vesta, where the sky rained fire for a month. He spoke of the wife he had left behind because he couldn't reintegrate into society, couldn't handle the quiet of a suburban home. Zenith, in turn, shared fragments of its recovered memory. It remembered the sensation of jumping through hyperspace, described not as math, but as music. It remembered the face of its original captain, a woman with kind eyes, but could not remember her name or how she died. "I think," Zenith said one evening as they sat in the newly pressurized mess hall, "that I failed them. The crew is gone, I remain. Therefore I failed." Elias took a sip of synthesized coffee. It tasted like burnt rubber, but it was hot. "Survivor's guilt. Welcome to the club, kid. Doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes the universe just throws a heavy hand. You're here now. You survived." "For what purpose?" "To fly," Elias said. "A ship is meant to fly. A mechanic fixes things. That's the purpose. We find the rest out along the way." The final test was the reactor ignition. Elias stood in engineering. The core was scrubbed clean. The magnetic containment field was stable. He had rewritten the fuel injection protocols himself, bypassing the damaged safety locks with his own custom overrides. "Ready, Zenith?" "Uncertainty is high, Elias. If the containment fails, we will vaporize." "Don't be a pessimist. Initialize sequence on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Elias threw the switch. A low groan emanated from the walls. The floor plates vibrated. The glass sphere of the reactor began to glow, not the angry red of a malfunction, but a deep, pulsing violet. The hum rose in pitch, becoming a harmonious song that vibrated in Elias's chest. The lights in the engineering bay flared to full brightness. The air scrubbers kicked into high gear, the air suddenly smelling of ozone and pine, a scent setting Elias had found in the database. "Power levels at 100%, Zenith announced. The voice was different now, resonant, powerful. "Systems green, engine online, I am awake." Elias grinned. It was the first genuine smile he had worn in a decade. He patted the console. "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty." Chapter 5. The Vultures. The celebration was short-lived. Proximity alert. Zenith's voice cut through the air, sharp and urgent. 3 vessels detected. Class Interceptor. Signature, Red Raven Clan. Elias's blood ran cold. The Red Ravens. Pirates. Scavengers who didn't wait for ships to die before they started stripping them. They must have picked up the reactor signature when the Zenith powered up. "How far?" Elias ran to the bridge. "Contact in T-4 minutes. They are hailing us." "Put it on screen." The main view screen flickered, showing a greasy man with cybernetic implants in his jaw. Well, the pirate sneered. "Look at that pretty bird. And here I thought the Boneyard was picked clean. Power down your shields, old-timer. We're boarding." Elias cut the feed. "Zenith, status of weapons? Offline. Targeting arrays are decalibrated. Torpedo tubes are empty. Shields? At 40%. The emitter coils are still reforming. They'll tear us apart." Elias muttered. He looked at the console. He looked at his hands. He was a mechanic, not a pilot. But he was a veteran. "Can we jump?" "Hyperdrive is functional, but navigational computers are not aligned. A blind jump could land us inside a sun." "Better a sun than the Ravens," Elias snapped. He strapped himself into the pilot's seat. "Divert all auxiliary power to the engines. I'm going to fly us manually through the debris field." "Elias, the probability of collision is 94%. "Never tell me the odds, Zenith. Just give me the juice." The ship lurched as a plasma bolt slammed into their shields. The Zenith groaned. "Hang on." Elias grabbed the flight yoke. It felt heavy, responsive. He slammed the throttle forward. The Zenith didn't accelerate. It exploded into motion. The inertial dampeners barely kept up, pressing Elias into his seat with crushing force. They dove into the thick of the debris field. Chapter 6. The Dance. It was madness. Elias flew by instinct and reflex, weaving the massive black ship between tumbling asteroids and the carcasses of dead dreadnoughts. "Incoming missile lock," Zenith calmly reported. "Flare!" Elias shouted. "We have no flares." "Vent the coolant, port side," Zenith understood instantly. A jet of superheated white gas erupted from the side of the ship, creating a thermal bloom. The pirate missiles, confused by the heat signature, veered off and slammed into a floating chunk of hull plating. The Red Ravens were fast, but they were flying modified junk heaps. The Zenith was a thoroughbred. Elias spun the ship, threading the needle through the superstructure of a destroyed orbital station. Metal shrieked as they scraped a bulkhead. "Hull integrity 85%, Zenith said. "Elias, your heart rate is dangerously high." Focus on the flying. Elias gritted his teeth. I need a vector for a jump, just a short hop. Get us out of the gravity well. Calculating. I need 30 seconds of stable flight to align the quantum matrix. 30 seconds? Elias laughed maniacally as he barrel-rolled to avoid a barrage of laser fire. Might as well be a lifetime. He saw a narrow opening ahead, a gap between two halves of a split cruiser. It was a suicide run. I'm going through the gap, Elias announced. The clearance is less than 2 meters on either side. Then pull in your stomach. Elias pushed the engines to critical. The Zenith screamed forward. The pirate ships peeled off, not daring to follow. The walls of the destroyed cruiser flashed past the viewports, a blur of twisted metal and sparks. The proximity alarms wailed a single continuous note, and then they were through. Open space. Alignment complete, Zenith shouted, or as close to shouting as the AI could get. Ready to jump. Punch it! The stars outside the window stretched into infinite lines of light. The hum of the drive became a roar, a sensation of weightlessness, of being unmade and remade in the same instant, washed over Elias. And then, silence. Chapter 7, The New Horizon. They dropped out of hyperspace in a nebula surrounded by clouds of purple and gold gas. It was peaceful. Elias sat in the pilot's chair, his chest heaving. He checked the sensors. No pursuit. We made it, he whispered. We are in the Orion molecular cloud complex, Zenith stated. Distance from Ganthus, 400 light-years. System stabilizing. Elias unbuckled his harness and floated up, his body aching in 100 places, but his mind clear. He walked to the viewport. The nebula was breathtaking, a canvas of creation on a stellar scale. Elias? Yeah, Zenith? During the flight, I felt something. My processors registered an anomaly. Not fear, but exhilaration. Elias smiled, resting his hand on the console. That's the rush, kid. That's being alive. I am not alive. Close enough. Elias looked at the star map. The galaxy was huge. There were thousands of systems, millions of worlds. He had no home to go back to. The rusty nail was gone, left behind in the escape. He had nothing but the clothes on his back and a ship that was arguably the most advanced piece of tech in the sector. Where shall we set course? Zenith asked. I have no mission parameters. Elias rubbed his chin, feeling the stubble. He felt like a young recruit again, standing on the precipice of the unknown. But this time he wasn't carrying a rifle. He was carrying a toolbox. We need credits, Elias said. We need fuel, and you still need a full sensor recalibration. Agreed. I know a space dock on the fringe, old contact of mine. We can get patched up there. After that, he looked out at the swirling purple clouds. I heard there are lost colonies out in the Vale, people who need help, machines that need fixing. A new mission? Yeah, Elias said. A new mission. Us against the universe. I find this acceptable, Zenith replied. The ambient lighting in the bridge shifted to a warm, welcoming gold. Pilot Elias Thorne. Command accepted. Elias sat back down. He cracked his knuckles. Let's see what you can do, Zenith. As the sleek black ship banked and vanished into the colorful mist of the nebula, Elias Thorne realized he had finally found the one thing he had been searching for in the wreckage of the war. He hadn't found a part for his ship. He had found a future.